Yeah.
We're going live at any moment, so, and we're live.
Ready to go? Well, good morning, everyone.
Hey,
Welcome to the April 26, 2024 meeting of the University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees. This meeting is being held in person at the Brookside South Residence Hall multipurpose room, with some board members participating remotely. At this time, I will ask Board Secretary Michelle Carreri to conduct a roll call attendance to determine if a quorum is present. Please clearly respond present via WebEx or present in person when your name is called.
Margot Cook, Carmen Sabatoni,
Present.
Maria Duchamp, Michael Fascitelli,
President via WebEx.
Charles Fogarty, Joe Formicola, Monica Garnes, Neil Kerwin,
President via WebEx.
Matthew Lenz, Robbie Luna, David Materano, Joseph Matthews, Courtney Nicolato, Vahid Onjazieri, Jay Plasenzia,
Present via WebEx.
Tom Ryan,
Present
Robert-
via WebEx.
perfect, Robert Wagand,
Just under the bell.
oh, that was a good one, Mark Palange,
Present.
Michael Gray, David Caprio, Melissa Sutherland,
Present via WebEx.
and Reva Goyal. We have a quorum.
Okay. A quorum being present, I will call this meeting to order. Reminder to all members, please speak loudly into your microphones when you talk. Please clearly identify yourself whenever you comment, make a motion or second a motion. Please clearly state yes or no or abstain for all actions. Board members participating using WebEx are required to keep their cameras on. As remote members, and all persons present at the meeting location must be clearly audible and visible to each other. Other WebEx participants are asked to keep their cameras off until called upon to speak. At this time, I would like to acknowledge that the University of Rhode Island occupies the traditional stomping ground of the Narragansett Nation and Niantic people. I'd also like to acknowledge the return of our Board of Trustees, David Materano. David, welcome back.
Welcome back, David.
We missed you.
Finally.
I know everything came to a grinding halt when you weren't here.
Couldn't get anything done without you.
No, we surely miss you. We're happy that you're back. I'm very happy to also to report and recognize and celebrate the appointment of Abby Benson to the permanent position of Vice President for Administration and Finance.
Yeah.
Well deserved, Abby. Abby, tell me you have a voice for today. Uh-oh. All right, we're okay. We'll figure it out, because my voice is on the way out too. It's allergy season. All right, here we go. Okay, first order of business. Do we have open forum today?
No one has signed up for open forum, so we do not.
Okay. Okay, next order of business is the approval of the minutes of February 16, 2024. I would entertain a motion that the URI Board of Trustees approve the minutes of the February 16, 2024 board meeting. Okay. Okay, second, any discussion? Hearing no discussion, a vote in favor, say yes.
Yes.
No, none, any abstentions? Okay, the motion is approved. I'd like to mention a couple of things. As the vice chair chairing this meeting, to let everyone know that the employment terms, President Palange's employment contract, the employment terms discussed during our February 12th Joint Executive Committee and Compensation Subcommittee meeting and the February 16th Board of Trustees meeting have been captured and have been placed within the contract. I'm happy to report that Chair Cook and President have executed that contract. And so congratulations is in order for another 5 years from.
Congratulations, Mark.
Congratulations, Mark.
Yes. I'd also like to report on behalf of Chair Cook that during that process, she also addressed the URI Faculty Senate on March 28th regarding the Board of Trustees comprehensive review of President Pelage. Chair Cook noted that the results of the Faculty Senate review of the president were very consistent with the results of our board's comprehensive review. So just to place that on note. The third thing I'd like to mention is our annual lobby day at the State House. A couple of things I'd like to read, and then I want to talk a little further. URI Day boasted our ongoing efforts to increase awareness and support from the state. URI representatives showcased the work and statewide impact of the state's flagship public research university through interactive exhibits, and the participants of our student athletes, student researchers, faculty, coaches, and university leadership. State legislators heard directly from our students, constituents, and learned about the return on investment from URI that provides to the state. Elected leaders praised President Pelage for his new energy and sense of collaboration. They also praised the work of the university board, our board. I emphasize to the hundreds of participants that we are Rhode Island University, and at URI, we are working hard to address the state and the governor's priorities. I also noted URI's work to support education, positive health outcomes, and access to jobs that will increase the productivity of the state of Rhode Island. I'd like to thank all the board members that participated that day, and I'd like to thank all of our staff for making it such a very, very successful day. I want to give a definite shout out to the governor and his chief of staff that was present, Tony Alfonso. A definite shout out to our speaker, Joe Sacacci, our Senate President, Dominic Ruggiero. Also that day, Secretary of State Amori showed up with his support for the University of Rhode Island. General Treasurer Diosa was there also and gave his support to the University of Rhode Island, as well as our everyday lobbyists in the State House, Senator Susan Sildanowski, Representative Kathleen Fogarty, and Representative Carol McEntee, which are heroes for us. You should know each and every day on our behalf here at the University of Rhode Island. I've been around a long time. I'm an old guy that's been going up to the legislature, seeing lobby days. I have never seen a lobby day like the University of Rhode Island, Mark, and you all put on that day. There was so much energy, enthusiasm, not only from our team that was there, but you could feel it. You can see it in the speaker's speech in his eyes, the Senate president. The governor was under the weather, so Tony Alfonso took care of business for the governor. But just the enthusiasm, I never saw more reps or senators come out of their chambers and walk all around to see what was going on with the University of Rhode Island. I think we've turned the corner here. I think they understand that we are more than just an entity of the state of Rhode Island, but just what we've been telling them, an active political machine for jobs and everything else that the state needs. We've accomplished that, Mark, under your leadership. So I wanted to mention that. I think that takes care of that right now. We're going to move on. That we're going to do another time in executive session. Next item on the agenda is the report of the president.
Okay,
You're up,
thank you,
Mark.
thank you.
Yes.
I will go up there. It's going to come up? Ah, okay. Well, while it's coming up, let me just begin by also joining Armin and welcoming you. Thanks, Armin, for chairing today's meeting. I also want to thank all the members, many members of the university leadership who are here today. We also had, Armin, that was really, thank you for giving the shout out about the URI Day at the State House. That was like a festive fair, and a lot of our own faculty and students and staff learned about other things that were going on in the university that day. So that was great. Actually, this past week, we celebrated Joe Shikarchi, the speaker, celebrates each year student athletes at CCRI, RIC, and the University of Rhode Island. And with our athletic director, Thor Bjorn, we were able to celebrate a lot of amazing student athletes that we have. So thank you, Thor. I have several areas I want to cover today. I want to, first of all, as we always do, I'd like to begin by giving a little bit of updates, lots of good news. I'm going to talk a little bit about enrollment, marketing, communications, fundraising. I'm going to talk a bit about the budget model discussions that we've been having around the campus, in particular with Provost Barb Wolf and our Vice President for Administration and Finance, Abby Benson, and our AVP, John Pullman, who's also here today, and then all the deans. We've really had good participation. I want to talk a little bit about, as we always do, report on some strategic plan KPIs, and then talk about capital projects. I also want to mention that the happy news about Abby Benson being appointed Vice President for Administration and Finance. And then I also want to mention Chelsea Berry as Chief of Staff and Senior Advisor to me. So thank you, Chelsea. I realized last night, and if you haven't met them, you will get to meet them, but in January, we had Danny Willis join as the Dean of the College of Nursing. He's doing great. He's on his way. Best nursing program in the galaxy. And then Patrick Vivier is the new Dean of the College of Health Sciences, and they are also really taking off in good ways. Lots of collaborations across colleges. And then Carrie LaPlante from pharmacy, she started in the fall, and she's also doing great. So I'm looking forward to working with everyone here. I just want to, it's always hard, but I'm going to try to give a little bit of a snapshot of some of our things that are going on, good news from the university. So this year we celebrated Inclusive Excellence Awards. So thank you to our Vice President, Marquisha Miner, and our AVP, Michelle Fons, who Marquisha is here. This was really quite a happy and emotional day about honoring students, staff, faculty doing great work in diversity, equity, and inclusion. We had a major national campaign. I just show one team here, but robotics competition. We had just these amazing high schools across the Northeast region that came to celebrate and to compete, quite competitive at the University of Rhode Island. Many of them prospective students to join the University of Rhode Island. We also celebrate, and this is done, it's very nice, the 10 under 10. It's celebrating 10 alums who are within 10 years of graduation, and it's in all areas of creativity, scholarship, diversity, fairness, respect, just doing amazing things in so many different sectors. So there's a picture on the lower left of Jen with one of her arts and sciences alums, as it also turns out a former football player as well. We had in the middle the Rainville Awards. I think this was our 37th year of celebrating it. This was the team winner. This was the Bond. There were many, many, many nominees, and it just really well organized. So a shout out to our Vice President for Student Affairs, Ellen Reynolds, and the team there. And then every day, our faculty are winning major competitive national awards for grants. In this case, this is a professor, College of Engineering, Sung-Ho Kim, who has a NASA grant to support the development of semiconductors, miniature semiconductors at URI. Yesterday, we actually heard from the College of Education, who this past year had more than $4.2 million awarded in new grants, and they're also competing very nicely at the national level. We've had, let's see, Providence Business News had an emerging industry summit, URI figured there. It was important. It was really around life sciences and the blue economy. So it was an opportunity to talk about our $100 million bond for the Bay Campus. I'll talk a little bit more about the Bay Campus shortly. Again, warm thank you to the voters of Rhode Island and the $88 million bond that we're pushing for the biomedical sciences building on the campus here. There's lots of events. It's great to live on campus. You get to see many of them. We had actually the faculty we have an amazing music faculty, jazz in particular, had Carl Allen, who's arguably the best jazz drummer in the last 30 years. And so that was an awesome final concert. The student art exhibit competition, College of Arts and Sciences, with students coming from all different colleges. That's still being featured in Green Hall. So if you have a chance today to pop by and have a look. Lower left, we mentioned, it was great. Here's Laura Bjorn, our athletic director, with some coaches and some of our members of, it looks like Courtney, you're in that picture too. Is that right? I can put my glasses. So that was great. We've had, as you know, Jim Langevin is a visiting scholar at the University of Rhode Island. We just had a very nice symposium. It began by showcasing the film around the 2020 elections, No Time to Fail. It was about the elections in Rhode Island. It kind of focused, Jay's sister figured prominently in this from Providence, but it was really awesome discussion afterwards. Professor Gretchen Mock, who's speaking in this particular picture, leads the URI Votes Project, or Engineering Democracy. She's a professor in the industrial engineering. There were some students, but it was from political science. It was really a good gathering. So there's many, many events that also draw people. This is Rhode Island's university, and it's great to see the community. And then last, this was a special day. We celebrated more than 350 employees. We're going to do years of service recognition from now on with a breakfast, starting at 5 years. And so we were able to celebrate someone who was with us over now 50 years. She looks like she could go another 50 years. But it's really important that we really recognize the important work being done on our campuses and everywhere. Some more good news on the upper left, that's Ruth Ozeki. This URI Center for Humanities Festival every year celebrates. It was also a day we could celebrate undergraduates and graduates. I was also really appreciative to see the support that the faculty provide to these particular students, really generous and kind support. We've had biomechanics days. So this is between the College of Health Sciences and actually our athletics and strength and conditioning, but also our College of Engineering. And we have high school students that come, and a lot of students are interested in kinesiology, physical therapy, athletics, engineering, and so forth. It was a very interactive day. I just want to point out Professor Emi Ushida. She's one of 6 recipients nationally who received the Pew's Fellows Program, Marine Conservation. And then on the lower left, I don't think he's here, but our president of the Faculty Senate, Baram Nessa Sharif, organized this special honor, and so it involved a number of students and faculty. Are you here, Baram? No. And then happy news, and John Stringer is here. He's also very involved with keeping track, but our PharmD program, so to our member of the Board of Trustees, student member, it's now ranked 31st in the country. It jumped in 2016, we were 46, 2020, 40, and now 31. So that's going well. The College of Nursing, doing extremely well. For example, our master's program is 48th among 603 nursing schools, so that was good. A little bit about enrollment update, and I want to first of all thank Dean Labudi and his entire team for the incredible work that they're doing. So we continue to break first-year applications. It's not just random. There's a lot of hard work that goes into this. So for full 2024, we have a record number of applications. It's an increase of 1,500 over last year. Summer enrollment is up 6%. We have a very new strategic initiative for Pell Grant in-state students to help foster timely degree completion. Graduate applications are also increasing in all our colleges, and we hope will continue to develop, and we expect will continue to develop over the summer. Transfer applications are remaining strong and will grow through August. This has been a challenging year, and many of you have heard about FAFSA, so free application for federal student aid was redesigned by the Department of Education, and the rollout has not been ideal, and we're working on it. All of higher education has been impacted, not just the University of Rhode Island. So we've moved our May 1 deposit deadline to May 15th. I should say all New England publics, for example, all moved either to May 15th or June 1. The staff there have been working 7 days a week from early in the morning to late at night to be able to award students, and we've been able last week to start financial aid awards. So we've engaged, obviously, our congressional leadership so we can help make this better in the long run for all our students and their families. Fundraising update from our foundation and for our president of the foundation, Lil O'Rourke, and team. So the good thing is there's the solid darker line and then the blue line, and you always want to be on top of it. So we're at the last 1% to reach the line, but as Lil will always say, we will run past our goal. And so I just a warm thank you to Lil, the foundation, all the work, and a warm thanks to the Board of Trustees for all your support. We are going to properly celebrate this special campaign in September to thank all our donors. And I'm going to have another slide in a moment to talk a little bit more about that. So thank you, Lil. I want to mention our Vice President for Communication, Mac McDonald. He's been doing an awesome job of really, many of the highlights that I gave. I hope you all receive Rodi today. It really does bring together in many ways the news of the campus. But he's really, as Armin said at the beginning, we are Rhode Island's university. We want to really, both within the state, but regionally and nationally, we want to get the word out. It's really about raising awareness of URI's impact as a leading research university. And it's also about increasing pride. We have 60,000 alums in the state of Rhode Island, in our Rhode Island's flagship public research university. This has been a lot of work in terms of focus groups, stakeholder interviews, data analysis. It's really about amplifying URI's impact. And so there are various campaigns. There are some billboards. So I stole Thor's phone the other day and quickly took a picture. It's not the most beautiful picture, but we have a billboard on heading both ways. I won't mention another school that has one that is very irritating. So anyway, here we go. Those of you who get the Providence Journal will have seen the full page ads, the Boston Globe, PBN, Rhode Island Monthly, television, and there's a number of good news also that will happen at the train station in late May up in Providence, and TF Green will be in. So you see the idea. It's really about emphasizing some of the impact. Those of you who gathered last night heard a little talk by John Kirby about the impact. So you remember in '95, there were really only 3 oyster farms in the state. Today, we have more than 85. We went from $50,000 profit to some, greater than $11 million profit today. And that's really been because of the University of Rhode Island. Again, every dollar that's invested by the state, we return 6.25. And aquaculture is one of the areas where we've really partnered with industry. So one of our alums, Perry Rosso here, has bachelor's and master's, has been working with faculty. We're building the innovation hub out by Matunic Oyster Bar. We can talk about offshore wind. We can talk about impact in the arts, humanities. We can go across many fields of business and obviously the health sciences and so forth, engineering. So, we hope you're noticing it, and keep an eye also on maybe some NBA finals, and hopefully the Bucks are there, Mike, and our ads are there too. So, a little bit, I want to talk a little bit about planning of the new budget model. This is called or referred to an incentive-based budget model. We've had a steering committee that includes faculty, staff, and deans who have been working on this model with Huron Consulting Group. We have an executive committee that's been working on creating the budget model, informed by the work of the steering committee. We've been having very important discussions with the faculty across the university, in every college, with broad town hall meetings. I'll also say that we've been having very informative and useful discussions at breakfast, more sort of smaller groups, typically around 10, with our provost, Barb Wolf. I would say there's healthy dialogue about this. As people understand better, I think it's been good in that sense. There are a lot of good questions, and of course, those questions, those feedbacks are very important for us and where we go. So how did we get here? So some of them, goes back to, essentially decades of declining state appropriations, and you've seen the curves. I've shown them before. We go back to Jimmy Carter, where we had the data, and then basically it's been the state of Rhode Island has not seen the investment in higher education other states has. So there's really been a shift or a reliance on out-of-state tuition, and there's been squeezing of resources. And so we've seen it. We've seen the growth in students, but we haven't seen the growth in appropriate growth in faculty. So we want to be able to have the resources to be able to build in areas that are interesting. So we need to incentivize, and this is really about giving the colleges or the deans of the colleges and their colleagues more control over resources and how they allocate those resources. The bottom line is we are building a model that is unique to URI, that serves our purposes, but at the end of the day, this is for the University of Rhode Island. So we want a university that's not just surviving, but we want a university that's thriving. And again, to the point on the left here on the slide, this really puts deans, not the central administration, in the driver's seat to make decisions about their colleges. To date, there's been an amazing lack of transparencies, and the deans have not been in a position to manage their college finances. So how does this impact our URI colleagues? Well, it won't impact on our daily activities. Obviously, our mission continues to be education, service, and research. We continue to educate our students. We do the world-breaking research that we do, and we engage in critical service to the community, both within the state and then in our professions more globally. And obviously, the administration will continue to help run the important daily operations of the university and continue to support our efforts here. So these are the points about what a successful budget model will reflect. I want to remind that we do have a strategic plan. We have strategic pillar 4. We want, of course, the state-of-the-art facilities. I remind you that we have more than $1 billion of deferred maintenance. We want to have modern administrative systems. We love the typewriter, but, we can elevate to the computer. There's a number of things that we want to understand better, how resources are being deployed. But I really want to emphasize at the end of the day that the sun shines for everyone. So those spending time educating should have resources to support their teaching mission. Those that are also engaged in research informing the education programs should have the investments and the resources to support their work. On its own, the new model will not generate revenue, but we will have a better understanding, and using those resources better, we will be able to generate new sources of revenue. So this is a little sketch of the current budget model, which is this is how we operate now. It's very incremental, that centralizes all resource allocation and decision-making. The main two levers that we have on the left to support the university are undergraduate tuition and then state appropriations. To a much lesser extent, we do have some support now from URI online, and we do have coursework or professional masters also feeding in. We of course have grants and philanthropy that go directly to the colleges, but what happens is at the end of the year, there are budget hearings that are held by the provost with the deans and the colleges to look plans, but the reality is this hasn't really changed over the last 45 years. It's really an incremental type of budget where what you got last year is what you're going to get this year plus a little bit, and it has emphasize the important role that the colleges take in leading to say, hey, there's these opportunities, whether it's in public health, whether it's in engineering or business, partnerships, where we're doing teaching, maybe at Quonset, and somehow we have allowed other universities to come in and to some extent eat our lunch, and we have the opportunity to thrive. I think URI is really is great in so many different ways. We see it in the incredible students and faculty that we're attracting each and every day, the staff. So there's a lot of great people that have lots of good ideas that can really help work on this. And as I mentioned, our many wonderful deans. So the idea is a little bit of the model. This is a sketch, is flipping it a little bit. So we still have, obviously, tuition and fees coming in that's feeding, that will go directly to the colleges. We have different ways we can get into the details, but for example, if you teach an undergraduate class, obviously the instructor of the class is very important. So if it's an engineering student, say, taking a chemistry class, well, the chemistry department will have the benefit, but we also have to recognize that there's a lot of advising and support of those students that go in engineering. So there's some co-weighting that goes on there. Similar with grad school, obviously state appropriations, and then grants and philanthropy. Now, I should say, when you look at budget models, there's not one size that fits all. We're building what I would say is a unique URI model based on our needs right now. And most universities, if you look around, and many are ahead of us, Michigan, Colorado, and so forth, are moving towards some variation of a hybrid model. So we are very much committed to transparency. We have had a series of events to increase engagement and collaboration. Every faculty senate meeting since last summer, I have had some point, taking the time to talk about IBB. I realize, of course, it's great for the members of the faculty senate, but there's a lot of faculty that are not on the faculty senate committees. So we've been having town halls, we've been presenting, answering questions, and actually gaining really valuable feedback from our faculty and staff who are coming. We also hear, concerns, and we take the feedback seriously, and it's just been, I would say, very positive. So yesterday we had town hall meeting with engineering. The room was packed. And at these meetings, it's also very important, so as I mentioned, the deans are all part of the steering committee. And so, for example, yesterday in engineering, Anthony Marchese was there, and many of the questions were effectively answered and discussed by the dean themselves in that case. So that was great. Happy to answer more questions. So where are we on the timeline? We're in the phase of consensus building, reaching out, talking with the community. We're in the process of really trying to look out at the budget build out. This coming year will really be a transition year, so not a whole lot will change, except we have started to make some critical strategic initiative investments. So for example, in the College of Arts and Sciences, some support for getting research going. Again, we talked about enrollment services. We can go to the College of Education. They're going to be bringing out new programs already this fall that are really important. By the way, that's a college that's doing great. We have more educator graduates than any school in the state of Rhode Island now at the University of Rhode Island. I remind, we've been around for 100 years plus, and I want to ensure that over the next 100 years plus, we're thriving and heading in a right direction. Again, we want to make sure our research is supported and has impact. We want to make sure our students are supported. That are, and I'll mention, because this was a question somebody asked me, the College of Arts and Sciences core has about 4,035 full-time students. I'm not counting students that are doing minors or second degrees in the arts and sciences who are primarily elsewhere. We have 4 advisors. You can do the math. It's 1,000 students to 1 advisor. It used to be 800 to 1, but when we had 5 advisors over there, we needed somebody to work on another project, or they went to support another effort. The national recommended is about 275 to 300 students per advisor, so we have some work to do there. So I'm happy to come back and answer questions, and as always, we will keep the board updated. It is important as part of these board meetings that I update on KPIs, and I'm focusing one at a time. We're going to start with strategic priority 1. This time, broadening our impact. This really has to do with our recommitment to the state of Rhode Island, our recommitment to the Land and Sea Grant mission, and our effort to have those important impacts not only in the Northeast but around the world. So the number of, there's really 3 KPIs that are in this area. The first has to do with research expenditures. Research expenditure is an indicator of health of the research. We are going to be targeting, obviously, incremental targets. I should remind, we're in the process of hiring a permanent vice president for research. I want to say shout out to Bethany Jenkins, who's right here, who's been doing just a fantastic job. And I know that, so warm thank you, Bethany. It's not an easy job, I know, but you're doing great, and the feedback is extremely important. So research expenditures, the second one is proportion of papers. So in hundreds of fields, this is reviewed. You look to see what proportion of your papers are cited in the top 10% of the top 10% highly ranked papers in their field? Obviously, we want to be productive, but we want to have high quality papers, papers that people read. It goes back to our campaign. We want to have impact. And so we have ambitious goals there. And I'm going to just show where we stand in the next few slides. That's actually interesting. Yesterday, it really came up that the emphasis of the faculty was really they want to not just churn out articles that nobody reads, but really have those impactful and important and long-lasting publications. And then finally, we want to look at external and honors, awards, and we're using what the AAU has. They have a list of what they regard as the highly prestigious awards in terms of memberships and national and international academies. So here are some of the data. Did I skip? No, that's good. So these are the direction of our research expenditures. So for 23, it's 144 million. This is based on, and so I'm looking to you, John, just to nudge your head if I'm saying the right thing here. These are 3-year rolling averages. And so this is really headed in the right direction. The target really is to double, and we're on our way to about $240 million. So that's doable, we believe. We have to support our research office. Our research office has not been supported, so pre and post awards. So this gets back to critical resources because it can be very discouraging for faculty. You know, the odds of a lot of these grants officially are about 10%. We improve them because we, of course, do good work here, and so we increase the odds. But yeah, you do need that support. And then this is where we are in terms of our publications. So we're pretty close to 10% of our papers are ranked in the top 10% in the world. We would like to be above 10%. We'd like, you know, maybe 12%. So that's the goal. That is actually a very tough goal. Just to give you an idea of scale, Monash, where I was coming from, was 12.5, and we were really working hard on that too. So that, but we'll get there. We're headed in the right direction, and it just speaks to the values of who we are as a university. So that was a little bit looking ahead. We have a number of capital projects, so I'll speak to that. We're going to have a groundbreaking in June for the Ocean Robotics Lab. We're going to also celebrate on a different day Senator Whitehouse's earmark for the Ocean Technology Center on the Bay Campus. Where if you go up to the Fine Arts, they're working. We're going to have a topping off ceremony for the Fine Arts renovation in the early fall. Hope to see many of you there. And then I'm also going to quickly touch on commencement. So in terms of capital projects, a couple of things. So again, first of all, I want to say a warm thank you to, and Armin, you spoke to it, but our senators and our representatives who supported really the efforts of the athletics to bring those facilities. And at the end of the day, very grateful to the speaker, Joe Shikarchi, for stepping up. So we've completed, I'm looking to you, Thor, the design phase. Oh, we're going through it now. And is there anything else I should say there, Thor?
We can't hear the people talking.
So we have a firm that's Populous, and they are on their way. And they're Thor mentioned that this is the same company that helped with the Soliviv basketball practice facility. So we're thrilled that they're working. The fine arts construction. Thank you again to the voters of Rhode Island. I want to give a special thanks also to the Senate President Dominique Ruggiero, who really stepped up and gave an additional RICAP support. So Construction costs keep going up all the time, but that's going to be great. We want all Rhode Islanders to come to see our theater, which is amazing. There's a musical going on. What's the name of the musical, Thor? Little Shop of Horrors. So I'm seeing it Sunday, I think. But you should all see our musicals, our plays, our fine arts, and our dance, our music. It's great. ORL construction on the robotics lab is going out there. There's a big hole out on the Bay campus. There's design phase of phase 2 for the Bay campus, and then the PFAS for our drinking water supply is well underway. I want to thank everyone that's coming to our commencement ceremonies. We've made some significant changes this year. We're going to have real commencements now in the Ryan Center. There's a number of advantages in terms of accessibility and inclusivity. And obviously, we're not going to have to contend with the weather. We are going to have a certain continuity in our graduation. We have a set script, run of the show. We got to test a lot of this fall when we had the first ever fall commencement at the university, and that was extremely important. We're also bringing the graduate students into the colleges. So we're going to have bachelor's, master's, PhDs celebrating together. And obviously the undergraduates can see their TAs and can also see the work of their graduate students. It's really a student-centered event. It's for the graduates and for their families. And this year, it's very special. We will also be able to celebrate 3 honorary doctorates: Chuck Royce, Deborah Goodrich Royce, and Viola Davis. And so I'm looking forward to welcoming you to those ceremonies. I know that when we have greetings from alums, I want to thank members of the Board of Trustees who are stepping up there. Lil, I want to come back to the campaign celebration. So we have a date, we have a time, September 26th. It will be at the Ryan Center. We really want to honor and thank all our supporters, and that includes obviously the Board of Trustees and all the faculty at the university here who are supporting. Again, warm thanks to Lil and the team. I had the pleasure, actually, Lil, I did sign because I know I'm seeing you this afternoon, so I wanted to make sure I did my homework there, but it was really nice to be able to gratefully sign. And also, a lot of our alums just have received statewide recognition through PBN, so that was nice to be able. We have momentum there. Take time to celebrate, but we can't coast. We're picking up, we're sprinting now to the finish, so that's all good. And with that, thank you again, and I'm happy to answer any questions, Armin.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have more of a, just a statement. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. First of all, Mark, thank you for the update. I want to just comment budget process. It's a change is difficult. Changing the budget process is extremely. I think what you've done in including the entire university is to be commended. It's a tough process, but I think the more and more people learn about it, and the fact that the people closest to this that can make the most informed decisions around the budget, the deans, will be involved in the budget process, and the transparency, the sharing of the surplus, all of that, I think, will allow us to put resources where they're needed, to your point about advisors in arts and sciences. So we have a finite amount of money, and the fact that we'll have a much clearer look at where you should allocate it, I think is to be commended. So congratulations on that.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, I really appreciate you're speaking to a lot of those points. Yeah.
Hey, Charlie?
Mark, thank you. You've completed now your first 3 years, and it's hard to believe that it's been that long with all that's happened. But could you just, in the next 3 years, what do you see as the top two challenges facing the university?
Well, thanks, Charlie. I'm not quite on 3 years yet. I'm coming up. I do remember being in this room for the first time at the end of July, or the end of June 2021. I was really excited to be here, and I'm still excited. This is the best job in the world, is to be the URI president. I think we have momentum now. I think it's going to be continuing the role of the university and growing the role of the university within the state and in terms of the impact on the state. So I'm talking K through 12 to our impacts in healthcare, to our research in the blue economy, in biomedical sciences, to I really think that we are on the cusp of heading in a really positive direction there. In the past, people would talk about, oh yeah, somewhere down there's URI, but we're seeing it, in the student applications, in the welcome days that we've had, the enthusiasm, the truly profound and interesting research that faculty are doing with students and grad students. So I think that that spirit, that we continue that in the next 3 years. It's not like a specific one thing, but there's many pieces to it. And it's really the work of an entire community and continuing to build that sense of community. I think there's something that I've spoken about before, is just scholarly generosity. I think we respect across fields, respect for colleagues, even more locally, just building that engagement and within the university and onward is going to be sort of a very important thing. It's a little bit hard to put your hands around it, but we have so much good momentum now, and I think good direction and shared good energy. I think obviously in terms of technical side, it's going to be a bit of a shift in mindset that's going to come with the budget, changes to the budget model. It's going to be it's going to be different to what we have now. Now, if somebody wants to do something, they go and see the provost and ask for permission, and or ask for resources. And now it's much more like leadership. I just I think that that's going to be important, and I think we have the deans. I think we have the associate deans, department chairs, faculty, technicians, staff, the support. That's going to be good. We've had a number of areas that have been under supported. We really need to be able to bring those supports. I mentioned about the advisors and so forth, but I think it's sort of two parts. It's one is let's continue to get the support. I think the connection with the state of Rhode Island, with the leadership in the state. I really appreciated Armin's earlier comment, that we're really connecting, and we have a lot of friends that really realize that how the University of Rhode Island goes is how the state of Rhode Island goes. So I want to see us, let's have other stories, including the Perry Rasso story, but other stories that can be happening right now. So we're seeing the effects of climate change and so forth that are impacting the state. The opportunities in food security right now, that could be massive. What comes out of the College of Environment and Life Sciences now. At the moment, there could be a big shift there. But I think it's really about just the importance of the research university. I mean, it is the most important thing that the United States brought to the world, I think, is its research universities, and really seeing the benefit of having URI as an ambitious leading university that's really lifting people up, creating new opportunities. So I want to continue to support all the good things we're doing, in talent development, to the work we do in fine arts, across the campus. That, and I think it's going to be, how do we shift the operation of the university and really make, continue to build the collaborations across campus will be important.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment on that, and then also what Tom had said, and Charlie, your background being in government and from the General Assembly, where everybody's worked hard of our board members are trying to get a different level of understanding between us and the General Assembly, which is one of the most important areas where our money comes in, besides tuition and fees, but also on research and grants. So the conversations now, with the leadership of the House, the Senate, the governor's office is, what else can you do to create additional money to help us out? It's more of a real partnership type of discussion now in the back room with Mark and others that show up when we try to lobby on behalf of University of Rhode Island. So the incentive-based budget also is something that grant institutions are changing to, because the general assemblies of all the other states too are having trouble with incremental type of budgets. And as you know, they use the term always money. That once you get that certain money, it's everyday money you're going to come and ask for, and more the next year. What are you doing to also support that? And there's only so far you'll be able to go with tuition and fees. So even when we're in those type of discussions, they will ask us now, the federal grant came up for this. We didn't see URI put an application in for that grant. Whether we're talking to the congressional leadership or we're talking to the state leadership. So a lot of us in our own businesses, we were grant orientated, especially with us, with the labor's union. That was a big factor, that we had to have several grants go in every single year with the Department of Labor, or Health and Human Services, or Transportation. And the more that they saw us and they looked at these applications in time, the more we got, because we maintained the credibility with these federal agencies and these state agencies. And by the way, whoever concocted the grant wants to look good too, on a federal level or on a state level. So they want to give the money to the applicant that they know is then going to succeed in the effort. So that incentive-based budget, it's like we're now at a certain level, which Mark has established with the General Assembly. Now we're going to talk to the rest of our staff to sort of get on board also to do the different things that we need to do to be competitive and to continue this energy. And that's where all this really came from. It didn't come out of the sky. And if we don't keep up as a university with our competitors that have gone to incentive-based budget, then we're not going to keep up. We're just going to keep falling behind. The General Assembly will be there as much as they can be for us. Look at Connecticut. When they went to Connecticut 2000, when Governor Rowland was the governor then, and the money that they put in over a 20-year period, well, you got a little different governor now, different General Assembly. I'm not saying they're not supporting the University of Connecticut, but that faucet turned off a little, and they got some problems, and they got some issues. So when that day comes, we got to be ready for it. So thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Armin and Charlie and Tom. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. The next item agenda is item 6, executive session. And I have to read a little to you that I will need a motion, entertain a motion that pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 4246-5A2, for discussion regarding potential and anticipated litigation, for discussion regarding collective bargaining with all bargaining units, including discussion of a 1-year extension to the collective bargaining agreement between the University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees and the URI Professional Staff Association, and a 1-year extension to the collective bargaining agreement between the University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees and the URI Marine Professional Association pursuant to the statute for discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for public purposes where an advanced public information would be detrimental to the interest to the public, specifically approval of property acquisition. And lastly, pursuant to the statute, for discussion of matters related to the question of the investment of public funds, which includes any investment plan or matter related thereto, where the premature disclosure would adversely affect the public interest, specifically invest in potential programs. I hear that as a motion. A second, thank you. Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Okay, opposed, no. Abstentions? Hearing none, the motion is approved. We will start to move into executive session, and I have to read, it is anticipated that the executive session will last approximately 90 minutes, after which the board will reconvene in open session. The live stream will be paused during the executive session and will resume once the executive session has ended and the board reconvenes in open session.
So everybody's going to leave the room.
Yeah. You're going to let me
They'll
know.
tell me they're going to put them in a break. And then you can do this.
I need tea. I got a tea, yeah. So I need tea. With honey. A lot of honey.
Uh-oh.
I'll make it. I'll know I'll make it.
And we're live.
Live?
And we're live.
Okay, we're now in open session. The chair would entertain a motion. First motion is the motion to seal the executive session. Bobby, second. Joe, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Yes? Opposed? No? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Approved. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the report of the committee chairs and action items. And first on the agenda is, well, first after report, it should be noted that the ad hoc special real estate committee and the executive committees and the compensation subcommittee did not have a meeting in the interim of major meetings. First committee, Fahid, finance and facilities, and I also see you got a lot of action items, so just take them up as you go along with your report.
Thank you, Armand. We on the Finance and Facilities Committee met on April 14th. We had a robust and fairly long meeting. We discussed a number of items. We'll have 3 action items. At some point, I'll turn over to VP Benson to provide you some information on that before we're taking a vote. We decided that we'll cover all the action items and we'll do 3 votes on the roll at the end. As far as the discussions that we had, VP Benson provided an annual report on the forecasted FY24 financial performance with least likely and most likely scenarios compared to the budget. She expects that despite the budget deficit of $4.1 million, university will end the year positively between $6.6 and $14.8 million in surplus. She noted that some of these increases are one-time only, including a significant number of budgeted positions that are not filled in FY24. And a one-time infusion from state of $2.7 million to reimburse URI for its portion of state-assessed French pool. Additionally, she provided a brief update on an incentive-based budget model, which we heard about already today. And she'd be happy to answer more questions. We had a good discussion about that. And both myself and Armin, who's on the committee, we think that's a pretty good step for the university to take moving forward. VP Benson also provided an overview of university debt. This is a presentation that will be made annually to the committee. She discussed both general obligation and revenue bonds, and more broadly, the opportunities and priorities for borrowing, noting that any future borrowing will be brought to the board for approval. VP Benson also gave an update on 2 administrative initiatives underway at URI, the implementation of the university's new e-procurement system, which they're calling ROAD-E-Buy, and a classification and compensation study being managed by the Office of Human Resources that is looking at non-classified and non-faculty employees. We further discussed 3 proposed changes to the university's policy on approval and execution of contracts and other binding documents, which addresses the delegation of signature authority, change orders to contracts, and the use of state master price agreements. The committee also discussed the use of term sheets, which was mentioned briefly before, on their approval of real estate transactions, and you'll see that term sheets being used on the 3 action items that have come in front of you shortly. We finally, the committee discussed the proposed changes to the Finance and Facilities Charter annual calendar. I want to turn it over to VP Benson now to brief us on the 3 action items, and we'll follow that with a vote.
Thank you. So first, I want to give a report on delegations. This is a required report to the Board of Trustees if the president takes any action under his delegation on real estate transactions. And there were 2 that have been taken since the February meeting. The first was for a business accelerator license agreement between East Stroudsburg University of Pennsylvania and URI on behalf of a professor in our Department of Plant Science and Entomology. And the second was an amendment to a facilities use and license agreement between URI and the URI Research Foundation for the Ocean Technology Center. They're temporarily occupying that space on the Bay campus to house some companies that are URI affiliated. So those are 2 items that went to state properties under the president's delegation. Any questions about those? Okay. The second item I want to discuss is the capital improvement plan. You all hopefully saw a pretty lengthy presentation in your background materials. The Finance and Facilities discussed the SIP. As a reminder, the SIP is a 5-year plan that lists any capital project over $1 million. It's submitted to the governor on the 1st of July. So it comes to the board twice, in the April meeting for review discussion and then the June meeting for approval. We went through an extensive discussion at the committee, which I won't go through here, but I'll just highlight a few things. So there were several projects on the SIP that were updated. Several projects hadn't been updated since pre-COVID, projects that haven't started yet, including health and counseling and the Memorial Union and new undergraduate housing. So those were updated to reflect post-COVID construction prices and escalation. So those are on the SIP updated. We also updated some ongoing projects that you heard about from the president earlier, Narragansett Bay Phase 1, Narragansett Bay Phase 2, and the Fine Arts Complex project. They were updated on the SIP related to schedule and also some project costs. So both the Ocean Robotics Laboratory, which is part of Narragansett Bay Campus Phase 1, and the Fine Arts Complex came in over what was originally estimated pre-COVID. So we had to make some adjustments to find funds to support that overage. So those are updates to existing projects. I'll give a brief update on the new undergraduate housing. So that is on the SIP in case our public-private partnership approach is not successful, but we are moving forward with the public-private partnership approach. We just went through a round of requests for statement of qualifications from potential developers to work with us on university housing. We had 4 respondents, and we've advanced 2 of those respondents to the RFP stage, which we hope that RFP will be posted in the next week or so. So we'll continue to keep the board updated on that. So other updates to the SIP were new projects. And we intentionally are making an effort on the SIP to really highlight some of our asset renewal needs. So that's also called deferred maintenance. But really, as the president has mentioned several times, we have a lot of areas that really need to be addressed on the campus. We have about 28% of the state's buildings, and many of them just really haven't been updated as they should, just based on limited resources. So on this new SIP, you'll see several asset renewal projects, including campus accessibility. So this is trying to adjust elevators, different parts of buildings that aren't accessible, physically accessible, to make sure we're in compliance with ADA. Also building envelope projects. So that is a lot of roofs. We have many, we have about 15 roofs that need to be replaced right now that are kind of actively leaking when we have a rainstorm. There are other envelope issues like re-siding and recladding buildings. Carruthers HVAC replacement. So the Carruthers Library is obviously a main area for our students, and it's currently comprised, I think, of 9 HVAC systems. So we need to really modernize the envelope and the HVAC systems so that we can make sure that's a really functional library for our students. Access control is another area, especially from a public safety standpoint. We do have access control in our housing and residential life buildings and some of our other buildings, but we have a working group trying to determine what the best campus-wide access control system is. So we want to make sure that we can do some sort of more immediate term access control adjustments, and then also plan access control into future buildings. So I'm thankful for the many people on campus that are working on that. It's really critical that we get a modernized system. New graduate housing hasn't been on the SIP before, but it is included in our public-private partnership project. So we decided to put in the SIP in case that project is not successful. We want to make sure that we can look at replacing our graduate housing. So that's a new project on the SIP. And there are a couple of others that are more just deferred maintenance. Finally, the SIP presentation talked about our GEO bond strategy. We submit GEO bonds every 2 years. This is not a year that we have to submit for approval, and because we're about to undergo a campus master plan, we are likely going to keep the existing GEO bond for FY 20. I'm going to get the wrong 26, the FY 26 GEO bond. In the previous SIP, it was historic quad phase 2. We'll probably keep that on for this submission, knowing and putting in the SIP that we're going to update what that bond will be as a result of our master plan when we submit it next year. Finally, I just want to highlight that the SIP this year with this increased asset renewal is about $514 million in the last SIP. So it goes from about $1 billion to $1.5 billion. So that's a significant number. But as I mentioned, we're deliberately trying to kind of put put on the SIP and reflect what our really increased and ongoing renewed asset renewal needs are. So that's just an overview of the SIP. You also, in your presentation, got detailed project slides. I want to make sure everyone knows that they're a snapshot in time. So these projects, we have an amazing team that's working on these projects all the time. So we can certainly answer any questions you might have right now. But if you have ongoing questions, feel free to let me know. Yes.
Abby, this is Joe Matthews. I appreciate that you mentioned a pending master plan. Can you manage the expectation of when that will be completed? Thank you.
Yeah, so that's a hot topic of conversation. We are very close to issuing a purchase order. We went through an RFP process. We've selected a firm we're very excited about that has familiarity with URI and also has done master plans for many other schools. The PO hasn't been issued, so I can't share who the architect is, but as soon as that purchase order is issued, we will hit the ground running. The RFP had a time frame of 12 to 18 months. We would like to complete it closer to 12 months, and we'll be working with the firm as we kick off the project to understand how we can get the most comprehensive plan in place in the shortest time frame. We don't want it to be rushed so that they don't have enough time to work with stakeholders, so that's not a really meaningful campus master plan. So we're hoping it'll be more in a year time frame, but that will really get fleshed out when we start work with the architect.
Questions for Abby? So now the action items.
Yeah.
The first one is relative to approval of a real estate transaction with the East Farm Commercial Fisheries Center and the Commercial Fisheries Research Foundation. Abby, did you want to give a little background on that one, or?
Update on that. So this is really just continuing a long relationship with the East Farm Commercial Fisheries Center and the East Farm Commercial Fisheries Research Foundation. So they've been operating out of our East Farm in kind of a Quonset hut type building for many years, and they'd like to construct a new building. So we've been working with them and believe this is a really beneficial partnership for the University of Rhode Island. So we're seeking approval to allow them to build that new building.
Is it better to just take the vote now or just do 3 votes in a row? Should we do the vote now? Okay, so that's shared that we also Finance and Facilities Committee voted on 4th and recommended to the URI full board for a motion to be approved. So may I have a motion that the URI Board of Trustees approve licensing real estate at 61C East Farm Road to the East Farm Commercial Fisheries Center and Commercial Fisheries Research Foundation jointly and severally on substantially the terms outlined in the enclosed term sheet, and that the board chair, president, and vice chair of administration and finance are each individually authorized for and on behalf of the university and the Board of Trustees to negotiate and execute a real estate license agreement, any other documents relating to such transaction on substantially the terms outlined in the enclosed term sheet, with any such changes and additional terms as are deemed necessary by the person executing the same.
I'm Ryan, I move it.
Second. Okay. Any discussions? There being no discussions, may I have a voice vote? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion is passed unanimously. The next item is approval to exercise the option to purchase 177 Plains Road, Kingston, Rhode Island, and 75 and 85 Briar Lane, and execute all documents relating to these acquisitions.
So these are two buildings that were purchased on behalf of URI by the URI Foundation and Alumni Engagement, one in 1992 and the other in 2000. The Briar Lane property houses our police department, if you're familiar with that. It's really close to the entrance to the Higgins Welcome Center. And then the second building houses our environmental health and safety department. So we would like to initiate the process to transfer these properties to URI. We've worked with general counsel at URI and also with the foundation to make sure that we've done our due diligence and gone through the process needed. We just are seeking board approval to go ahead and initiate that transfer.
I'm Ryan, I move.
Do I have to read this, or we're good? I have to read this. Thanks, Tom. I appreciate your kindness, but I have to read it.
I'm trying.
So, Finance and Finance and Facilities Committee voted on April 4th to recommend to the URI Board of Trustees approval of this transaction. So now there being no discussion, may I have a motion that the URI Board of Trustees approve the request to exercise the university's option to acquire title to the properties located at 177 Plain Road and 75 and 85 Briar Lane, Kingston, Rhode Island, as granted to the university pursuant to the provisions of these lease purchase agreements related thereto and presented, and that the board chair, president, vice president, and vice president of administration and finance are each individually authorized for and on behalf of the university and the board of trustees to take all such actions and to execute all such documents as such person deems necessary and appropriate in furtherance of exercising such options and consummating the acquisition of the foregoing properties as recommended and presented.
Tom Ryan, I move that also.
Second.
Any discussions? No, I guess we have the second. There be no discussions, we have a voice vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Abstentions? So the vote is unanimous, approved. Last action item is approval of the real estate transaction with the Tamaqua Indian Memorial Museum and the negotiation, execution of all documents relating to such transaction. Abby.
Thank you. So URI and the Tamaqua Museum are currently parties to a real estate license agreement for the Tamaqua Museum to move to property on Ministerial Road that is owned by URI. And we've been, since President Parlange arrived, we've been in discussions with the museum about what we believe to be more sort of appropriate for all parties location, which is at 3045 Kingstown Road, which is where the International Scholar Athlete building used to be, if you're familiar with that. We feel that that site offers more proximity to the university, more visibility, could also be sort of a southern entrance to the campus, and also is, I think, also has utilities and other things that the other site don't have or require less clearing of land. So in these discussions, we've come to an agreement on that property. And so the goal of this to authorize us to update the real estate agreement to reflect the new property.
So once again, the Finance and Facilities Committee voted on April 4th to recommend that the URI Board of Trustees approve this transaction. So may I have a motion that the URI Board of Trustees approve licensing real estate at 3045 Kingstown Road to the Tamaqua Indian Museum on substantially the terms outlined in the enclosed term sheet, and that the board chair, president, and vice president of administration and finance are each individually authorized for and on behalf of the University Board of Trustees to negotiate and execute a real estate license agreement and any other documents relating to such transaction on substantially the terms outlined in the enclosed term sheet, with any such changes and additional terms as are deemed necessary and appropriate by the person executing the same.
David Morano, so moved.
Any discussion? There being no discussion, may I ask for a voice vote? All in favor? Yes. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion is approved unanimously. I do apologize. There's one more here too. Wishful thinking. Approval of, this would have been a good meeting for me to skip, Approval of a revocable easement agreement with, I'm speaking as much as the President Parlange there, So approval of a revocable easement agreement with Rita L. Santilli, a revocable trust, Mario and Dolores Petracra, and Lucia Santilli.
You. So this revocable easement agreement would address an accidental driveway and storage encroachment on the W. Alton Jones campus. So this is another situation we've been in discussions with the landowner for quite some time. The encroachment doesn't currently impact our operations at Alton Jones, but we are actively discussing what the future of Alton Jones holds. So we want to make sure we have the opportunity to address it in the future if we need it. So we are asking for approval for a revocable easement, so an easement for the property owners that we can revoke if needed in the future.
Once again, the Finance and Facilities Committee voted on April 4th to recommend that the URI Board of Trustees approve this transaction. May I have a motion that the URI Board of Trustees approve the revocable easement agreement with Rita L. Santilli, Revocable Trust, Mario and Dolores Petrarca, and Lucia Santilli in West Greenwich, Rhode Island, as recommended and presented, and that the board chair, president, and vice president of administration and finance are each individually authorized for and on behalf of the university and the board of trustees to execute the revocable easement agreement as recommended and presented.
No formal call.
Any discussion? There being no discussion, ask for a voice vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is approved unanimously, and that concludes my participation in this.
Very good. A lot of progress. Charlie, we asked for accommodation. You're going to go next with the Academic Affairs and Research Committee.
Absolutely, Mr. Vice Chair. And as you'll note, there has also been a coup with the Academic Affairs Committee. We have Neil in comfortable exile away here, so I just ask you to continue business as usual and obey the lawful authorities. We will be the Committee on Academic Affairs and Research met on April 10th. We heard presentations from our provost, Dr. Barbara Wolf, which we've heard already encompassed in our early discussions with the president's report. And we also heard a report from Dr. Bethany Jenkins, the interim VP of Research and Economic Development. I'm going to ask Dr. Jenkins in a moment to give a brief update to the full board on her report. And we also have 3 brief action items following Dr. Jenkins' report.
All right, good morning, everyone. I realize I never like to be between people in their lunch, so that's a little unfortunate here when with the change in schedule, but thank you for your time, and I'm really looking forward to talking with you. I have a pretty short presentation to allow some time for discussion, and I first really want to acknowledge, thank you very much, President Parlange, for your kind remarks. I mean, it's really easy to be a leader in research when you have a president and provost that are very much aligned, and I want to just emphasize the fact that this has really been a team effort to steward research at URI. We're all excited about our faculty, our students, and the amazing work that we do. So we work together really well as a team to be elevating our research profile as a flagship university. So that's very exciting. So one of the things that I'm not going to belabor, because I'm going to give you a little bit of lunchtime reading, is just some of the highlights from our research. Our Momentum magazine just came out, so I'll be passing these around for board members that you can flip through lunch. I don't want to detract from anybody else's presentations. You will also be mailed a copy, so if you don't want to take this home, you can just leave it and I'll pick those copies up. But that way you can read about some of the great work while you eat your lunch. But I really appreciated the slide shown by the president this morning that was put together with information from John Stringer's team. We are very much on track in our research and excellence, and the numbers I'm presenting today of our FY24 research expenditures reflect the awards going through the division. So we're doing extremely well, and our research numbers look great. So and really every time I give this presentation, I emphasize these numbers are the really hard work of URI faculty. So they get the credit for this generation of revenue. We've been hiring like crazy. So, the president found resources to really in response to faculty need for supporting more of this research, grants going out the door, grants coming in. And so we've been responsive to that. And as a division, we've been hiring in response when I started. So I'm almost at about a year. So this is kind of exciting as the interim VPR. And when I started a year ago, there were a number of vacancies. So I'm very proud to say I can stand here a year later and say we are fully restaffed, and now we're into these really critical positions for extra resources for supporting research. So I think we're up to 9 completed hires and three more searches that are ongoing, and we're really increasing the capacity of our team. And one of the new areas that I've been trying to hire in strategically is to help the division swing with the rest of the university towards this incentivized-based budget model, knowing that there's going to be more resources in the colleges to do certain things. So we're thinking a little bit differently about how we support them centrally. And so one of the key positions I've hired in this area is with, again, funds allocated strategically from the president and the provost, is a chief business officer to help us better model our grant revenues and the indirect revenues that we are awarded through grants, so we can provide each college with better forecasting models of its expected budgets coming in due to grant expenditures. There's a lot of nuances there, but this person is going to be a central person in the Division of Research team, really there to help the colleges. Likewise, these research concierge positions are going to be networking faculty across campus. We've already started some speed networking events over climate change that were really exciting. So they're facilitating these kind of team building amongst our faculty in one case, and in the other, research concierge is going to be bringing staff together to help us train people and provide, again, coordinated support across the colleges. So if a college like the College of Environment and Life Sciences hires a new grant specialist through IBB, there's actually somebody centrally that they can partner with to get the training that they need and do a good job. So stay tuned on that. So those are the sort of quick updates I wanted to give you about what's going on in the division, and I hope you'll enjoy this lunchtime reading. So I want to switch over and talk about the University of Rhode Island Research Foundation. So I might need to go back a slide. There we go. So I reported on this to the Academic Affairs and Research Committee, and I just wanted to provide a little more written context for everybody on the board, including particularly new board members. So we have two nonprofit entities that partner with the University of Rhode Island. One that you know extremely well is Lil's Philanthropic Foundation, the URI Foundation. We have another foundation called the URI Research Foundation. And this research foundation was created in 2007 through the general laws of Rhode Island to essentially help the University of Rhode Island foster its intellectual property portfolio, the development of scientific research, technology, and the commercialization of our intellectual property. So I have a copy with me of the whole legislation that enacted this, but this is kind of distilled down to the intending legislation of this general law. There are my slides. Got a trigger finger up here. And so really what I want to talk about a little bit in more detail is what the status of certain activities between the university and the Research Foundation look like. And particularly around IP, it's gotten a little, it's not, I'll just be frank, it's not running as ideally as I think it could to serve the University of Rhode Island. And so we have activities on the URI side, and by activities, I mean University of Rhode Island resources that are going in to support staff for these functions for both the intellectual property and commercialization. And then there's kind of a little bit of a handoff in terms of some of the IP decision authority, which lives within the URI Research Foundation. And then also our IP revenues flow into the Research Foundation. So right now we have a little bit of a disconnect between revenue generation and where some of the staffing lives. The URI Research Foundation also holds some pretty important equity in URI startups that started quite a while ago. You heard about this company called Flip that's doing amazing things with drug delivery. They're part of that portfolio of actual equity from a company a URI faculty member started. And then there's IP endowment that actually, the principal lives in the URI Foundation, and the revenues, the dividends essentially come into the URI Research Foundation. I can go back to this slide if people have questions about any of this. I believe I have one more slide. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about the other business units and activities under the URI Research Foundation. And these are names that you'll see kind of branded online. There's a kind of branded entity called URI Ventures. This is sort of the aggregation and the landing place when you go to look at our IP portfolio. And so this was essentially the name given to the external world when they come and look at the listing of the intellectual property the University of Rhode Island has protected and that might be available for licensing. So it's sort of the website for commercial partners. There's another entity and business unit called Polaris MEP. This is a manufacturing extension program. This is really important to the state of Rhode Island, and this funding to support this comes through the National Institute of Standards and Technology, known as NIST. So the NIST funding comes in. Each state has a manufacturing extension program, and so if you're trying to grow workforce and grow your manufacturing sectors that are important for your state economic development, in our cases, it's a lot of like blue tech, defense industry, that this MEP program sort of has funding in that sector. And so that NIST funding comes in, and then the Polaris MEP actually has their own board, advisory board, and a number of employees that work through these the funding that comes in through this NIST grant to execute these activities. The other entity is an entity called 401 TechBridge. This is a relatively new entity. It's an organization focused on economic development for Rhode Island and the region, and it's a partnership with something formal called this Naval New England Tech Bridge. And so this is really monies coming out of the defense sector for workforce development around defense-related R&D. And so its focus is to support new technology to bring to market for technologies that have gone past the prototype, that are kind of ready to be sort of almost produced in these TRL levels that are more advanced. They do a lot of work with NUIC. The focus areas are blue tech, advanced manufacturing, composites, and textiles. The founding funding for this entity is a combination of sources: the Economic Development Association, the Office of Naval Research, Rhode Island Commerce, Rhode Island Foundation, and the Van Buren Charitable Foundation. So that's another business unit under the Rhode Island Research Foundation. And it also, I believe, has its own advisory board. And I believe that is the end of my presentation. So I will maybe back up a slide and take any questions that the board might have at this time.
I have Tom Ryan.
Tom?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
One of the, Neil and I had done some work on this, on the research foundation, and there was a consultant that came in, I think a few years ago, and they talked about the issues around pre and post grant support for our faculty. So I'm really happy to hear that, Bethany, that we're hiring people around the grant specialist. How do you feel about the pre and post grant support? And then I have one other question.
Thanks so much, Tom. I feel pretty good. I think we still can be growing resources, and I think what's exciting is that we're doing that in partnership with localized resources in the colleges. I know the College of the Arts and Sciences for the first time has a few of these staff positions as well, and that really helps our faculty because they know those people. Those grant specialists know the types of awards that they're writing, and so we're kind of going into this really exciting hybrid model where there's an incentivized system to encourage more colleges to have folks locally to help. And then the things that we do centrally are things like train people really well, our post-award team is amazing. You've heard in the past board presentations on our really complicated USAID portfolios with offices in places like the Philippines and Madagascar. Those are the kinds of things our post-award team has a lot of expertise. And so I would say we're kind of the central teams are probably the most deeply experienced. And I honestly can't say enough about the Associate Vice President for Research Administration that I hired soon after coming. She has just been phenomenal in terms of building capacity in her staff, making sure that we're hiring effectively and quickly, and we meet on a daily basis so that I understand what's going on in the research administration landscape, and we're in a really good place. So can we grow? Are there things that we can look at in improving processes and doing better? Yes, but I hope we're on that really positive slope. I feel good. I feel like we're in a good spot.
The other thing that wasn't clear after this analysis was, what was the synergistic effect of the foundation on the research foundation with URI? I mean, the Polaris Group and the Tech Group are almost standalone entities with their own boards. They get funding outside the state from various areas, some from the state, but it seemed to us that, or at least to me, that was a standalone foundation, and I never could understand the synergy. In fact, I could see a dyssynergy with the foundation when you think about they own the revenue, the equity, and URI doesn't around the IP portfolio. So I think it's something we should look at. We never came to a conclusion, but I think it's an area that, as you're looking at this, and I know you're certainly into the details, we should really understand what the relationship is. Is there a beneficial relationship, or could we have our own portfolio? I mean, the question I have in the URI Ventures, what's our IP portfolio and how much commercialization have we made, and how has it benefited the university over the last, I guess, 17 years?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll just comment, and thank you, Tom, for your perspective on that. The way I've been looking at this is, our division is called the Division of Research and Economic Development. And I think there's pieces that, it's really about alignment, and it's really about the potential of the sum being better than its parts. And so there's some really exciting examples where recently through some funding with ONR, the Research Foundation has been doing innovation and entrepreneurship with URI students. That is awesome work, but we really want to make sure it's done in alignment with URI strategic priorities, college strategic priorities. So I think the way I've been really trying to think about this with, again, conversations across our leadership teams, is to ask the question, what do we at URI want economic development to look like? What's the best path forward? Because I think for a long time, that was just sort of shunted over to the foundation to play that role. And so what does that look like at URI? And then using that lens to kind of think about realignment.
Right. Right. Okay.
Go ahead, Tom, follow up.
No, I guess do we have any information on the ventures and the IP portfolio that we have from a commercialization? That's why the foundation was originally started. It was intended to house the commercial products that the URI community developed from a for-profit standpoint. And it's morphed. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it feels to me there's a messiness between the two, and to the outside world, the URI Research Foundation is the university. So whether it's a naming issue or not, I don't know. I think we should be clear on it and how it's organized, how it's funded, and where do the revenues go. I'll stop.
So,
Thanks, Tom.
and follow up almost on the trend that Tom's on. So first of all, I want to see a copy of the enabling legislation that they got originally to get this started, if you could send me that. And second of all, candidly is like the horse out of the barn here. I mean, are they living a life of their own, or they forgot that they're part of the university? To have their own, I mean, I'm getting something's not moving here, right?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of leadership change at the university, and you know, what I will say is, prior to my tenure as interim vice president for research and economic development, about a year prior to that, their executive director was somebody that had a lot of IP expertise and reported, it was a dual report to the Research Foundation and the university. And then that position was sunset and moved back to the university with a separate executive director of the Research Foundation. So we've been in dialogue, kind of trying, particularly around the IP pieces, you know, what does this look like? What's the best home? And those conversations have been happening. I'm happy to provide you with that legislation.
So you do have conversations going on?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, just give me a copy of it and they move.
Bethany, maybe to further answer Tom's question, if we have at some point, perhaps for the June meeting or September, we could have some of the statistics about the investments, the revenues, et cetera, so we have a clear idea of what's been going on over the past 17 years. We can do that. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. We now have 3 action items. The first item is the awarding of posthumous academic degrees for the spring commencement 2024. Our provost, Dr. Barbara Wolf.
Thank you. So based on the recommendation of the deans of their colleges, we have the sad duty to request the Board of Trustees approval for the awarding of posthumous academic degrees of 2 students at the spring commencement in 2024. And that is from the College of the Environment and Life Sciences, Ms. Grace Campanella, and from the College of Health Sciences, Mr. Stephen Drebeck.
Affairs and Research Committee voted on April 10th to recommend to the URI Board of Trustees that we approve the awarding of posthumous academic degrees. May I have a motion that the URI Board of Trustees approve the awarding of posthumous academic degrees to the students listed below for the spring 2024 commencement as presented in the enclosure, the College of Environment and Life Sciences, Mrs. Grace Campanella, and the College of Health Sciences, Mr. Stephen Drebeck. Is there a motion? Is there a second to the motion?
Second, Courtney Nicolato.
Any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, nay? No? Any abstentions? All right, the motion passes unanimously. The next action item is the approval of the awarding of undergraduate and graduate degrees, diplomas, certificates, and honors to be conferred by the president to candidates who have completed their requirements at the conclusion of the spring 2024 term and who are approved by the faculty of the University of Rhode Island. Dr. Wolf.
Yes, so we're requesting the approval of these individuals. We do this on a regular basis, so the numbers are before you, and we'll go from there.
And the Academic Affairs and Research Committee voted also on April 10th to recommend that the URI Board of Trustees approve the awarding of these degrees. May I have a motion that the URI Board of Trustees approve the awarding of undergraduate and graduate degrees, diplomas, certificates, and honors to be conferred by the president to the candidates who have completed their requirements at the conclusion of the spring 2024 term and who are approved by the faculty of the University of Rhode Island as recommended and presented in the enclosure. Is there a motion?
So moved, J. Placencia.
Is there a second?
Second, Monica Gall.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. And then finally, an action item, the approval of legislation from the Faculty Senate Curriculum and Standards Committee, report number 2023 to 2024 07C, and the Graduate Council report 2023-2024 10C, which have been approved by the faculty and the president of the university. Organizational change, reducing the number of required upper division credits for a BA degree in the College of Arts and Sciences, and a new program, the MA in UX UI Design in the College of Arts and Sciences. Dr. Wolf.
Thank you. So the first request here is a change in the number of credits. And again, this is to facilitate the development of a new program, particularly one that's online and that targets working adults. And this provides a more flexible pathway to a degree. And then the second is a new program. It's a Masters of Art, and it's called UX/UI, User Experience and User Interface, and this is a growing demand, and it's a stackable degree on top of a certificate.
Thank you. And the Academic Affairs and Research Committee voted on April 10th to recommend that the URI Board of Trustees approve the legislation. May I have a motion that the URI Board of Trustees approve an organizational change reducing the number of required upper division credits for a BA in the College of Arts and Sciences and approve the creation of a new MA program in UX UI design in the College of Arts and Sciences as recommended and presented in the enclosures? Is there a motion?
Matt Land, so moved.
Is there a second to the motion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. Any abstentions? And the motion passes unanimously. And Mr. Vice Chair, that concludes our business.
Thank you, good job. We're going to jump again. We're going to move to Student Life and Athletics Committee, a report. Tom had to excuse himself. Jay, you going to handle that?
I think I will try to.
Okay.
Very good. So the Student Life and Athletics Committee met on April 16th. We had no action items. However, we did review and approve the committee charter and calendar. In addition, our athletics director, Thorbjorn, provided reports to us around the athletics performance, ball and winter sports. If there are any questions around this report, Thor, I believe, is in the room and can give you any details you need there. In addition, he gave us facilities updates around the Mead Stadium, the outdoor track, and other facilities. Thor, is there anything specific that you'd like to share with the board around your reports? Or any questions from the board?
Thanks, Jay. No, nothing to add unless there's any questions. Certainly feel free to ask.
All right. I have the shortest
Thank you.
report, looks like.
That's it. Thank you.
That
was
is all.
quick.
That is all.
I was told, look, we got a little record breaking here. We're moving pretty well. Why don't we just take a 10-minute break just to get lunch? And we'll come back and we'll finish off. There's not much left on the agenda. A couple more committee reports, a couple of more motions. So let's break for 10, 15 minutes.
Do we keep everything on?
Keep everything going.
We just finish up?
Not a bad idea.
Nobody comes on, if not, I'll go to Courtney.
Right, right, good. We did more than 10.
We did.
So.
We went longer. Here's Robbie. Robbie, are you ready to go?
I sure am.
Okay, you're up. Institutional risk and compliance.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. The Institutional Risk and Compliance Committee met on Thursday, April 4th. We discussed several items, and there were no action items. We did convene an executive session to discuss 3 items. The first one was an update from the interim CIO, Chief Information Officer, and the CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer, on cyber issues, including an update on the external audit of IT management observations. And the university is making good progress on addressing those observations. The second item discussed in executive session was an overview of the university's risk register, including how the register is developed and scored. Nothing that many of the risks outlined in the register are common to higher education. I did want to note there that the university has made a significant amount of progress in the risk register.
Robbie, do you hear us?
I do. Can you not hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. We just wanted to confirm that to the extent things occurred in executive session, you're just touching on the description of them in the agenda and not going further into what occurred in executive session.
Okay. And then, yeah, the third was the overview of the university's insurance coverage, concerns related to renewals of specific insurance coverage. Finally, in open session, the committee discussed the proposed changes to the Institutional Risk and Compliance Committee charter and the annual calendar. And that concludes my report.
Okay, any questions of Robbie? Okay, thank you. Courtney, you're up. Governance Committee.
Vice Chair, wanted to take a moment to thank Riva and Armand both for representing us so well on URI Day, so thank you so much. I also want to welcome back David Monterano, and we're thrilled to have you back, my friend. Also, congratulations to Neil, Robbie, and myself, who've been recently reappointed by and confirmed by the Senate. Also want a big thank you. Big thank you to the governor and Craig Dwyer from his team. I will say, having done this now for a few years, this was absolutely the smoothest process around reappointments, and it takes a lot of work. I don't know how Craig does what he does, managing all the appointments, but grateful to have his support. Also, the governance committee met on April 8th, and President Parlange has shared that he has reappointed Riva for another year, so we'll be thrilled to have you. Riva's been a great addition, and so excited to have her for another year, so thank you, Riva. When the governance committee met on April 8th, we had a number of different agenda items to cover. One was around our board goals. And so thank you to everyone last year in our board retreat talking about the things that we wanted to focus our attention around. We have KPIs that we're focused on really monitoring and managing as a governance committee to ensure that the goals of the board and individual board members are continually to be met. I want to thank Jay, who's really led that effort, and Monica for her feedback in that process. One of the things that is a priority, as I mentioned earlier, is around engagement with faculty and students. As a reminder, the graduation is a great place to do that. I think we work really hard in support of the university, and graduation is a day of celebration. And so it's a great opportunity and hope to see you there. We also talked about our board retreat. Our board retreat is our next meeting on June 28th. Look forward to having everybody here. We'll do dinner the night before and have a couple of activities to get to know one another, as well as focus on some of the key areas that we've been talking about here at URI. And so Chelsea and I are working through the agenda for that. We'll be sharing that as we move forward. We've also taken a lot of feedback from folks on items that folks would like to see covered. We will have a portion of that board retreat around our goals, and again, talking about what we can do better as we continue to evolve as a board. One of those things is the completion, kind of a starting point is the completion of a board assessment. This is an annual assessment that each board member completes, really evaluating you and your effectiveness as a board member. That will be coming to your inboxes shortly. And so just as a heads up. Also, just as a reminder, and we're going to probably be out of this meeting a little earlier, which is the perfect time for you to complete your Rhode Island Ethics Commission financial disclosure form. So thank you in advance. Today is the due date. Today is the due date. Thank you, Vahid. I looked at him a little bit. And so I appreciate, we do have one action item. It is the policy on employee recruitment, selection, and hiring, and I'm going to turn it over to Anne Marie Coleman to provide more insight.
Thank you. The document that you have before you today, which is a rather large document, is a comprehensive update and consolidation of existing policies on the recruitment, retention, hiring of faculty, non-classified staff, and classified staff. When the Board of Trustees became into being, we were, as you know, at the beginning of COVID, and we did not do a lot of work on policies and procedures initially because we were putting together the structure for the board. We convened a rather large group of representatives of faculty and staff across the institutions, all the divisions, and we compiled this updated document that we're going to ask you to approve today to become effective on July 1st, and so that we have the opportunity to train all the search chairs that have searches in the queues to begin at the beginning of our fiscal year. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but we brought this to the governance committee 2 times, once for notice and once for approval. So some of you have seen this. This will be your 3rd time.
Any questions on the policy? To that point, I just want to note we are looking at how we can be most effective in reviewing and approving policies. We do not believe we need to go to 2 meetings for review and then approval. And so we want to consolidate that and try to expedite some of that process. So more to come on that. But the governance committee has voted to recommend on April 8th, we recommended to the URI Board of Trustees to approve this policy. So may I have a motion that the URI Board of Trustees approve the policy on employee recruitment, selection, and hiring as presented in the enclosure? Thank you, Charlie. Can I have a second? Thank you, Maria. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll ask for a voice vote. All in favor, please say yes. Yes. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. The motion is approved, and that is my report. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you.
Vice Chair, may I, just one comment. I think Courtney forgot to mention, I was saddened to find out that one of our OG original trustees, Richard Humphrey, is no longer on the board. So I just think we should acknowledge his over 4 years of dedication and hard work to the board at this time.
I'm gonna tell you, you're the best. What?
So what is the other agenda item?
No, there's just, I got 2 agenda items left.
Okay.
I gotta stop laughing. No.
Who is he?
Thank God. Everybody's looking around.
Who is he?
Who is?
Okay. Okay. Do you want me to go? The next
So
agenda item?
the funny part is, Marco said, make sure you don't mention the fellas' name.
We're live.
All right, I'll get it together in a minute. Okay, all right, here we go. We have 2 additional agenda items left, and I'm going to need a little help from Anne Marie. Explain what we're going to call for a motion on the 2 contracts.
Contract extensions we discussed in executive session, and I don't have the motion in front of me, but okay. We'll be asking the board to approve both of them in the subsequent motions read by the chair.
Very good. Okay, here we go. First one, I would like this to be a motion that the University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees ratify the tentative collective bargaining agreement between the University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees and the URI Professional Staff Association for 1 year extension, July 1, 2024 through June 30th, 2025, of the existing collective bargaining agreement with a 2.5% across the board salary increase. Do I hear that as a motion?
Matlin, so moved.
Okay, second? Okay, any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Abstentions? Motion is approved. The second motion that I would like is that the University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees ratify the tentative collective bargaining agreement between the University of Rhode Island Board of Trustees and the URI Marine Professional Association for a 1-year extension, July 1, 2024 through June 30th, 2025, of the existing collective bargaining agreement with a 2.5% across the board salary increase. Do I hear that as a motion? Motion second. Courtney, any discussion? All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? The motion is approved. We have one last motion. We have one last motion to adjourn. Who wants to make the motion? That motion was summarily first and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
No abstentions, motion's approved. I thank you so much for guiding me through this meeting. Thank you all.
Thanks for getting it done so quickly.
Thank you, thank you. Make sure you tell Margaret we set a record.